Okay, we've all been there, right? You get a car repair bill that just makes your jaw drop. Well, a lot of the time, the culprit is a tiny little component with a huge job. Today, we're going to perform an autopsy on one of the most feared engine problems out there, a blown head gasket. So let's start our investigation. Think of a blown head gasket as the final scene in a crime movie. It's the dramatic climax, but it's rarely a random act of violence. No, it's the result of a deeper, underlying problem that's been building up for a while. So, today, we're going on a full-on forensic investigation to find the real culprit behind this catastrophic failure. We're going to peel back the layers and figure out not just what failed, but more importantly, why. First things first, let's meet the component at the very heart of this story, the head gasket. It might not look like much, but believe me, it is one of the hardest working parts in your entire engine. I just love this description because it's so true. It's this thin but absolutely vital barrier that's maintaining order in the incredibly violent, high-pressure, high-temperature world inside your engine. It's just trying to keep everything in its proper place. Its main job really boils down to sealing three critical things. You've got the immense pressure from the combustion chamber, you've got the high-flow coolant passages, and then you have the pressurized oil passages. And the number one rule is that those three things must never, ever mix. And check this out. This diagram just illustrates the battleground perfectly. You can see the distinct seals for combustion, for coolant, and for oil. And any breach in these seals, say a leak from the combustion chamber into the coolant or coolant getting into the oil, leads to immediate and escalating chaos. So what is it that pushes this little peacekeeper to its breaking point? What starts this whole tragic sequence of events? And here it is. This is the key to the whole mystery. A head gasket almost never just fails by itself. It's a symptom. The real problem, the thing that kicks it all off, is overheating. The head gasket is the victim here, not the villain. Now, your engine's cooling system, its entire job is to manage the insane amount of heat generated by combustion. We're talking temperatures that can hit 2,700 degrees Celsius. But here's the scary part. A single simple component failure can cripple this entire defense. And a lot of times, the culprit is the humble thermostat. Think of it like a gatekeeper for the coolant. When it's healthy, it opens up, lets the hot coolant flow out to the radiator to get cooled down. But if it fails by sticking closed, well, now the engine has no way to cool itself. It's literally trapping all that intense heat inside. And the effect is pretty dramatic. A stuck-closed thermostat can cause a really dangerous spike in engine temperature. I mean, look at this. In one test scenario, the temp jumped from a normal 64 degrees Celsius to nearly 75. And that's just the beginning of the runaway heat. So how does this initial overheating escalate into total failure? Well, it's not a single event. It's more like a devastating domino effect. This right here, this is a critical turning point. Once the coolant starts to boil, it turns into steam. And steam is a terrible conductor of heat. So the very fluid that's supposed to be cooling the engine actually starts insulating the hottest parts, trapping heat and accelerating all the damage. This thermal chain reaction is just a cascade where each stage makes the next one worse. First, the aluminum cylinder head expands with heat way faster than the heavy iron block it's bolted to. This difference causes the head to actually warp, creating tiny gaps in the head gasket seal. Then, bam, high-pressure combustion gas blasts through those gaps, superheating the coolant and making it boil into useless steam. Finally, the seals are totally breached, fluids mix, and the gasket just burns right through. The engine is now in a state of thermal runaway. But here's the good news in all this. Your engine doesn't fail in silence. It sends out some pretty clear distress signals long before the final breakdown. Each one of these symptoms is a direct clue that points right back to a specific failure in that chain reaction. You see white smoke coming from the exhaust? That's coolant burning off in the cylinders. Is your oil milky and frothy? That means coolant has contaminated it, destroying its ability to lubricate. Every sign tells a part of the story. And you know what? There's a definitive test for this. A mechanic can do a chemical test that literally checks for combustion gases in your coolant. If it changes color, that's like a positive DNA test for head gasket failure. It's proof that the combustion chamber seal has been breached. So, the crucial point, right? How do we prevent this chain reaction from ever even starting in the first place? The key takeaway here is that diligent maintenance of the cooling system is by far the best way to protect your head gasket. This means checking your coolant levels, making sure your thermostat and water pump are working, and most importantly, paying attention to your temperature gauge. If you ever see it spike, shut the engine down immediately. And this really brings our investigation full circle. Remember, the head gasket is the victim. By addressing the root cause, that overheating from a failure in the cooling system, you break the chain before it can lead to catastrophic damage. Seriously, paying attention to those early warnings, that temperature gauge creeping up, that unexplained loss of coolant, that can be the difference between a simple, inexpensive repair like a thermostat and a complete and very expensive engine replacement. So, are you listening?